In this video, I want to talk about using colored filters, those guys, with black and white film. What's up, guys? In this video, I'm going to go through and I wanted to make a video on using colored filters with black and white film. Now, I know there's like a billion videos on the internet about using filters with film and using filters just with photography in general, but they're all confusing, really. I mean, at least they were kind of confusing when I was first learning about the stuff, and the reason is because people just cram everything, in at one time, and I don't think it's necessary. So, the goal of this video is to basically just to cut the crap, and by the crap I mean other colors, right? So cut the other colors out and just go through and talk about your main three that at least I always use, and the majority of black and white shooters that I know, if they're going to use a filter, they're going to use one of these three. And I think just by doing that, it'll simplify things a lot. Now, if you want more of like a detailed scientific explanation, Freestyle Photo has a really good article that they published, and I'll link that up below. That includes all the colors as well, not just these three, but they go through the science behind, why and what happens, and it's really, gives all of the technical background on using filters with film. But for our purposes, we're just going to keep it super simple, and go through some sequential examples, and we can kind of see just how each filter is going to change the color and the image. Okay, so with this first set of images, the first thing that really jumps out to me is the contrast. And you can see, comparing that top left corner, which is no filter, with the bottom right, which is a red filter, there's a pretty dramatic difference in the shadows. They're deeper, they're darker. It kind of makes the image pop a lot more. And there's also a color shift going on here. Okay, the sky is getting kind of a deeper color, and your foliage right there on the left side, and then back by the buildings, and even the reflection from the water is getting darker. And also the bridge and the buildings, because they are more of a orange color, they're lightening up with that red. Now, this wasn't a particularly cloudy day. I mean, there's a little bit of clouds, and you can kind of see that in this last image, but just notice how they're non-existent in that image with the no filter. So, here in our eyes, we're seeing, in real life, we're seeing clouds, but yet when we record it with no filters, they don't even show up. Now, in this second set of images, because it's already kind of a high contrast image or a high contrast scene, what kind of pops out to me first off is the color shift, most notably in the tomato. And you can see again with the top corner, there's no filter. That tomato is it's a pretty ripe tomato. It's definitely a strong red. Move down through the progression, and then you're going to see it's almost ghost white. And I mean, that's the effect that these filters can have. And I just want to point out too that just because we're using a red filter doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to get increased contrast. Taking a look at the top corner with no filter, okay, under the nuts, there's a pretty deep shadow there. And when you compare that to the frame with the red filter, okay, you see that shadow, it's pretty much lightened up quite a bit. And that's because of the color of the nuts. They're kind of like an orangey. So that's in the red family, and that's going to get lighter. So, just because you're throwing a red filter on doesn't necessarily mean that you're adding contrast to the scene. It's going to be very much color dependent on, what colors are in your scene. And there's absolutely no rule that says that you can't use colored filters with colored film, which is what I did here. And you can kind of see that, yes, there was I used a yellow filter, and it is overall a yellowy image, but there's a little bit of reds, a little bit of oranges that kind of come through. And looking at this scene, it's kind of like a dingy, dirty, grimy scene. And I think using a yellow filter really emphasizes that. And everybody knows there's no rules in photography. Throw some colored filters over some colored pictures. Who cares? You know, you might waste a couple rolls, but you might get that happy accident, that one picture that you're like, hell yeah. You know, and how are you going to get that picture unless you try a billion different things? To summarize here, you know, why would we want to use colored filters? And first reason, it could be to color correct the image. Looking at that first set, the landscape there, you might have noticed that, you know, with no filter, there was no clouds. Yet, as we saw the scene, there was clouds. So, you know, that could be one reason that you'd want to kind of make the scene as you see it. Or just to make some colors pop, or just to get artsy, you know, slap a couple colored filters over some colored film. The world is your oyster, you know, go for it, right? So, you know, how can we achieve the desired effects that we want? How are we going to use them? And the basic rule of thumb is just use the same colored filter that you want to lighten up an image. Or if you want to darken a particular color, you're going to use the complementary color. For example, that tomato, it was like a super juicy, super raw. I'm thinking about it right now, man. I want to eat it. But it was a mega ripe tomato, right? So it was really red. And we use a red filter on it. And you can see in that image that it just pretty much, it became stark white. You know, it lightened it up that much. And anything that was green in the scene when using that red filter, it got significantly darker. Now, what are the best uses for these specific colors? Well, yellow is just a great general purpose filter. It gives a tiny bit of contrast, and it's going to make a scene look more realistic, you know, kind of how we would see the scene. It also works great with skin on some complexions. It'll lighten everything up and just give like a really pleasing look. Orange could be a great choice for anybody shooting like architectural, or if you're shooting street, you know, this might be a good choice for you. It's going to make everything pop, give a little more contrast, and the oranges and the colors in a city scene are going to work great with this. And red, as we saw, you know, it's great for landscapes. It will kind of deepen up a sky. It'll give a really kind of like dramatic image, and it'll really give a scene some punch or some much needed contrast. Of course, these are just a couple examples of, you know, why you might want to use these particular colors for scenes like this. It is by no means the end all be all for reasoning of you must use this in this particular situation. You know, everything is scene dependent, and that's really up to you guys. You know, what is your vision? What do you want to create? And having a better understanding of what these colors can do, you know, is a good start. So that about wraps it up, guys. If you've enjoyed the video, or if you've found it kind of helpful, if you could do me a favor and please give it a thumbs up. Maybe share this with somebody who, you know, you think might want to check it out. And also, you know, don't forget to go check out that freestyle article if you do want more information, because like I said, it's just really super well written and very easy to understand. So highly recommend it. I'll link it below. Also, if you haven't subscribed, pretty soon I'll put a little circle button right around there, and you know, click that, and you'll get notified anytime we upload things. Some are how-tos like this, others are just reviews or overviews, but everything's film photography related. So if that's your thing, then, you know, click to subscribe, and you'll get the latest and the greatest. So until next time, we'll see ya. In this video, I'm going to talk about, that would be my phone. Yellow.